Peace, peace, peace. I guess you could say this like a part two to the first video. Speaking about learning to embrace our inner child again, and, recovering those aspects of our wounded self. Most importantly, seeing our inner wounds and not being so distracted by the outer beauty. That being said, it's like giving honor to source, giving honor to ancestors known and unknown. So that being said, this continuance, I had another moment before I actually got back on here where I was purging again, and I'm sure a lot of us probably are going through this, or if some of you are trying to make sense of what you're getting out. Again, we're purging a lot of stuff that, again, over generationally, from both wounded patriarchal and matriarchal, and a lot of which I'm realizing as I'm doing this, I'm immediately, that's the cat if you do hear it, I'm immediately like, even after I'm being led to like cry, or because these things can purge in different ways. It can be expressed through a lot of emotions like anger, a lot of frustration, a lot of things that come up. With me recently, with my own experiences, immediately automatically relates back to like something dealing with my childhood. And I'm seeing how, again, as I spoke on a previous video, how that is connected to so much of my mother and my princess now. It's like a lot of doubts can come up in these moments, or a lot of doubts do come up, because it's like I'm fighting for custody for my inner child. Literally, like fighting for. I'm gonna grab some water, cause yeah. And what I mean by that is like fighting for custody in the way of like, you're talking about standing back up in your truth, recovering those parts of yourself that were preyed upon, like through the woundedness and all of that. So you're talking about these parts of ourselves that were like dormant, and we had no idea how much. Like I'm telling you, have no idea how much repressed emotions and how much we have been suppressing them. And then now that's being demonstrated when our world's being turned upside down, where we go through things mentally, spiritually, financially, where we doubt who we really are, what we're here to do. And that can show up in many ways for a lot of people, in different ways. I know from my own experiences, that's shown up with me a lot, emotionally, even how my princess expresses herself. So I'm realizing how that connects to me not being emotionally fulfilled when I was a child, and that brings up a woundedness when she's expressing herself, or crying, in the sense of just like we all were when we were young, crying out. And it's basically like, hey, pay attention, or be aware that there's something going on with me. And we all can relate to this, because in reality, there's something going on with all of us, whether internally, and these are these internal wounds that are making themselves apparent again. So when I'm saying I'm fighting for my inner custody of my inner child, in a spiritual sense, it's like you're talking about waging war over regaining your inner strength, your power, your innocence. So in that polarity aspect, or metaphorically speaking, it's in a way of like you're trying to break free from these entity attachments, these things that have kept the family dysfunctionality going, fueling that. And so when you're breaking free, like breaking chains and letting go, a part of you, your inner child, is crying out, and you're recovering that. You're learning to embrace and love and accept those parts of yourself that, again, through the false programming of what truly is valuable, you're gaining that aspect or version of yourself again. And with me, it's like the parts of me that question why I had to go through those experiences when I was young. Why did this person that say they loved me treated me like that? Then having to forgive the version of myself when I was 5 or 6, 7, or whatever age, and realizing how that what I was, that unconscious, whether conscious or unconscious, person that was hurting, why did they inflict their pain on me? Then I carry that burden or carry that baggage or that emotional pain alone for so many years, to where I realized, like, why am I continuing this? Why do I need to continue this? So that healing process, man, it's not for the faint of heart, because you're talking about facing things in those, going to the past or seeing those past versions of yourself. It's not so pretty. The versions of ourselves that we want to run from or can no longer run from. So now we're faced with it, the reality of it, then seeing it daily and not trying to beat ourselves up. Because as a man, mentally just trying to get through the day with peace, with trying to break free from societal standards of what a man should be, how a man should show up, and you're telling me to be this and do this and all these things centered around that, because it's different versions of what a man and how a man should be, coming from people who are wounded, or people who never even had what a divine masculine is, or what a man really encompasses, or all these different versions we've heard, or I've heard from this thousands and hundreds of people. And you're talking about unlearning that, reaffirming myself how beautiful I am, and then not only that, learning to accept that internally, because the internal wounds are the things that humanity and all of us now are being faced with, things that I can no longer run from. So much aggression, so much anger over the years, from so many suppressed emotions of how I suppress things, whether through playing sports, whether through alcoholism, whether through certain things where I was trying to escape the reality, the actuality of my inner child, fighting, not knowing that someday I will have to fight for custody of that. And then fighting, when I mean fighting for custody, it's like fighting for a peace of mind, fighting through those childhood traumas, experiences, to be at peace again, to feel loved again by me, not by others, to feel that sense of love again, knowing that, I myself, we've been fooling ourselves through the expectations of others, not realizing that someday we will be faced with the very things karmically that, because that's what karma is, it's an energy, what we put out. I was sitting there after I was crying a little bit, and see, we don't even realize, like, unconsciously, the caregivers that we had and the people that were in our lives, they projected you know, put these things, whether they knew or not, with no accountability, or using the tools that they had to do the best that they could, and not realizing that we will someday come to this awareness, or someday see the importance of this. And even through our own patterns, because no one has it all together. I always say that, not even myself. I've had moments where I've done things, especially to the mothers and fathers and those of you, like, it's not gonna always come out the best way to your kids. It's not gonna always You're not gonna always do things to the expectations of society, or all these, getting into the holiday, all this other stuff that really, when you get to the value of really who they are and what you're teaching them and what you're sharing with them, do they know the importance of who they really are, and loving themselves and honoring and expressing themselves to the fullest potential, or the fullest expression, and knowing that, again, we've all have fallen short of glory, to the fact of, like, doing certain things to where these little kids are the same kids that, as we're healing from our caregivers and guardians or whatever, they're also going to be someday. Because Spirit brought that to the self-realization of myself. As I'm trying to fight for custody for myself and honoring now my emotions and showing up, that means I have to take into account or accept the fact of anything before that, not to beat myself up over, but to see my actions and how what I did that wasn't in alignment, or that wasn't, whether unconsciously or consciously, doing something that I know that would inflict or hurt someone. And these are the things that our kids they're going to have to heal from us. And now I believe that's the message that I have to relate to a lot of people, is that on this healing journey, you have people that unconsciously or purposely did certain things. But one thing I learned is not to beat myself up over past actions or things, because I can only feel to the depths of what I've experienced. And in that, I can only correct or be a better version of myself after that. So, to a lot of you, mothers, and fathers, but especially our mothers, it's like, your best is good enough. Whether someone else has told you it's not, no, your best has always been good enough, because you can only have used the tools that were shared with you. So if people didn't share what it is to love yourself, what it is to honor your emotions, then yes, you, myself, have unconsciously had and played a role in the wounding, in the dysfunctionality of what has happened generationally. But you also have a responsibility to yourself, and then how, moving forward, how that breaking that generational chain or curse, you can do better with showing up for yourself, with now balancing out those things where you can be there for you and be there for the ones you love. Because no matter what, as the responsibility in seeing what we have played a role in, there's a balance between, or that's also a responsibility in moving forward with the awareness that you come into, and then how, we all can move forward in a better way, however that looks, because it's not going to look the same. So I realize there's things that I've done that my princess was have to heal through, because of the simple fact of I had to realize that, oh wow, man, I need to check myself. I need to assess my emotions. I need to better my approach, so that, depending on the wounding or the childhood trauma, it looks different for everyone. So for me, I realized how much that, again, having an emotional unavailable caregiver, or having someone who was emotionally, or well, yeah, emotionally unstable or verbally abusive, it took a lot to even get here to now to reaffirm to myself. See, I have to realize that relationship with myself is just as important. And I told her mother this. I said, your relationship with yourself, and a lot of mothers and fathers, especially mothers, need to hear this. Your relationship with yourself and your higher power, most importantly yourself, because this hasn't been taught. Your relationship with yourself is just as important as your relationship with your child. Some people will object to that, be like, "Oh, you crazy," but think about it. How long have you went on without really being there for you, without the nights that, or so much, how long you have suppressed your emotions due to the fact of trying to be there for your child, or trying to be there for someone else, or trying to, bag lady, trying to carry everyone else's load. And here you are, 10, 5, 12, 15, 20 years later, carrying suppressed emotions from relationships when you were a child. Carrying relationships, suppressing your emotions from relationships 2, 3 years ago. Never really addressing or saying to that person, well, this hurt me. I didn't like that. And that's your inner child. Just as I've had to do these things with people. Sometimes I give myself that closure, but a lot of us haven't given ourselves closure. Through survival, we were forcefully told ourselves we gave ourselves closure, but in reality, we never did. So grant yourself that closure, and you'd be surprised how much repressed and how much you have suppressed your emotions through it all. Because I'm telling you from experience, from with myself, there were things I thought I got through, and then you get into in a relationship, and most importantly, you see how much, because Spirit will open your eyes, you'll see how much you're healing through, and whoever you're in connection with, they're healing through, because they're healing from their father, or they're healing from this relationship and that relationship. But the most important part is that, do they know the relationship with themselves is more vital than any of that? So when you see the whole bigger picture on these platforms, when you're seeing people talking about, these platforms with men and women on there, which really are just expressing themselves from their inner child, which really are people just seeking some type of acceptance, validation, or to really be embraced. Because in that partnership, on these platforms, you'll see people, well, what about if the man don't do this? What about the woman don't do this? What about this? They don't have this financially. What about... And all of this bullshit y'all learn is from a dysfunctionality or people who do not even care about your well-being. Because outside of how people show up for you, whatever they can give you and offer you, and this is from me learning this, if they don't know the importance of their own well-being and showing up for themselves and honoring their emotions, and I'm not saying, and this is where you see the domestic violence and how all this stuff comes up, because you have emotionally unstable people. Because people don't know the importance of, they haven't seen emotionally intelligent. They haven't seen people who have been in tune. They haven't seen peace. So they create chaos most of their life. So you're talking about people on these platforms batting, this person saying everybody wants to be right, and that's everyone's truth, but from their experience and from their perception. Everyone out here fighting for custody of their inner child. Don't matter what relationship they're in. Because whatever happened with you and your father and your mother, whatever it is, a part of you is fighting to gain that acceptance and to feel seen, whether externally. And if you're healing, you know the importance that it's important to see that internally first. So a lot of us have been affected by this. So we're all fighting for custody of our inner child, that spiritual warfare, that battle between, heart and mind, or even if our heart and mind are even aligned. So these platforms are talking about what? Just, these are people, their inner child, or whatever it is they're going through. This person says this, and this person responds emotionally from whatever emotional attachment or from whatever they learned based off their emotions, based off their mentality, or based off what they have learned communicatively from their experience. Same with men and women. All trying to see who's right or wrong. Then you got the applause, but the reality and the actuality when it comes to accountability is that until you sit down with yourself or with these people, because when you sit down with them and you express to them, we all want to go out there and tell people how we feel and this, oh, you made me feel like this. But what about yourself? Have you sat down with yourself? I had to learn to sit down with myself and really see, well, what part of me is keeping this narrative going with these relationships, with these partnerships, with there anything else going on? What a part of me is keeping this going? What a part of me is still hurting? What a part of me that I haven't apologized to? What a part of me that needs to seek forgiveness for myself first? What a part of me still needs to tend to those wounds that I'm still out here blaming other people for? I had to really sit with some shit and be like, why I don't like hearing people cry, or why I don't, and a lot of it ain't so much about hearing that, it's the woundingness in that, because that's still communication, that's still an expression. Whether someone is deaf, whether someone cannot speak, they're still going to express or whether show you in an action where they need some attention or bring an awareness to something. And see, the bigger picture of all of this is that the awareness internally. Because truthfully, in all actuality, you're talking about environments and places where our majority of our women in this world have not had a place to express their pain. And men. You see, through their wounding, we've also been wounded. And it's an internal wound. That's why you see people lashing out at each other. That's why you see these big ass people wounded walking around and their inner child is lashing out, seeking attention. They're crying out. No matter what they say verbally, internally they're crying out for some type of, and they're crying out. And this is how much we need each other, but also need ourselves. So again, you see these things, no matter the platform, no matter the career, no matter where people are, no matter their status, there's something that people are seeking and will continue to seek until they realize that it's you you're looking for. It was something else that I wanted to say. What was it? I know I talked, the most important thing, we're all fighting for custody of our inner child. The higher self, whatever you want to call it. The you that's in you that you know that can believe and that you know that's awaiting for your arrival. The parts of all of us that, again, we've neglected. We saw neglect. Who continue to neglect? We saw abandon. We know what it is to be abandoned by others physically. But how long are we going to keep abandoning ourselves spiritually, mentally, emotionally? Oh, that's what I was going to say. We haven't had environments where our women have felt safe, no matter the culture, creed. And even if they felt safe, it don't matter how much their husband or these people have materialistically or money. We are now getting to a place where men having to heal our woundings. The only way we're going to meet a lot of women where they are is that we had to go to the emotional aspect, the depths of where all the things were hidden. Because that's how we all express ourselves, through our emotions, through our actions. Because emotions come and go. And so if we had our women who never knew what that was and they've been acting this out in a wounded way, we, the sons, were affected by that. Then the sons bred the daughters that will come. Same men. These were continued loops. And so we're reversing that. And in reversing that, it forces people to see all their emotions. It forces people to see the dark, the shadow, as you can see, the aspect that's always been there, the shadow self that no one can run from. So in that, Again, it's like if our women environmentally or societally or in these places haven't really felt secure, not just physically, you're talking about emotionally safe. You're talking about spiritually secure in their natural gifts. Because if they haven't been secure in that, then they're in position where that imbalance, which is now being restored, creates an imbalance around the world in the environments. That was the dysfunctional mother. That was the mother that people thought was normal, but in reality, our mothers, our sisters, the little girls haven't really truly had men there that really supported their emotions, or our women haven't had active listeners because we have been affected by it. We also have been wounded. So we all have played a part. And I'm not going to say, oh, there's nobody around. No. In reality, we haven't had that. The active listeners, the one who tend to us emotionally, mentally, because a part of us that was seeking that, we did not get that from the caregivers, the guardians, that was supposed to show us the value of that. So I'll probably continue this real soon because my princess, I believe she's getting up from her nap. So just ponder on that. A lot of us are accessing so many emotions that have been repressed for so long through our mothers. And then a lot of us now are finally trying to find peace with those things. Find peace in the betrayals, finding peace in the things that happened in our childhood that we didn't even think someday we would find peace. So the beauty of it all is that it's a process. Be gentle with yourself. Because I'm telling you, even from myself, it's like everyone don't have to agree, but I never agreed with abuse. Being verbally, physically, I never agreed with it because a part of me still is recovering from that fact. And I'm sure it's people still recovering from when I kept that dysfunctionality going as well. Recovering from that abuse of being hit on, being verbally spoken to in a way where, again, that's the part of fighting for the inner child, the custody of that. That's what people don't see day to day. That's what people don't see, what the fuck you're going through, because it ain't broadcast. That's what the healing journey is truly in the depths is about. It's facing those things where you talk about ancestors who went through so many things, because I don't know what everybody went through, but you're talking about family members or people who went through things, whether racism, self-hatred, a lot of things that we can go into depth of. And we're fighting for that. That's what breaking generational chains and curses is about. You're fighting for that. We all are. In a way, whether unconsciously or consciously, we're fighting to be seen. And the most important thing is that you need to learn what it is, or will learn, or if you're willing and surrendering, come to know what it is to see yourself again. No matter if mom, dad, anybody else sees you, the divine sees you. I see you because I've learned to see my fucking self. And it hasn't been easy. It hasn't. Because a lot of us are healing. A lot of us are exhausted from being in connections or being connected to people who have exhausted our resources. And what I mean by that is like the resources are, we're connected to the source, but the resources of your natural abilities. You naturally having these gifts to speak, to connect to people at a depth to where it's like, okay, you can give, but the giver at some point got to also be open to receive. So this is just a little part 2. But again, we're all trying to fight for custody for ourselves again, for our inner child. So, that looks different for everyone. You know, again, our mothers, the women, again, haven't had these places where they have felt safe or secure, or even, you know, where they can even feel safe to express the pain that they've endured for so long, for so fucking long. And in that, how can they trust a man? How can they trust even their sons? Because a part of them that haven't healed that, whether they're unconscious of it, whether they're consciously aware of it or not, they still will carry those woundings. And then when their son arrives, they will treat their sons with the same, through the same woundings, internal woundings, and project that onto him. And he will live that out until someone acknowledges and accepts the fact that only you can change that. And that's a process for everyone. Same thing with men. You know, only I can change, be the change. I cannot change no one else. Only I could do that. No one else is responsible for that. And that change is so fucking uncomfortable because emotions comes up. So many things comes up that you realize that have been, the narrative has been written for people until you're the one who rewrites it. So in that rewriting it, it looks unfamiliar to anyone who has kept the narrative or the storyline going. It looks very unfamiliar. And in that unfamiliarity, whatever, if that's a word, when you rewrite, things will be replaced. Characters will be replaced. People will be replaced, removed. Come on, recycled. When you recycle something, you throw it out to be reused in a way to where it benefits the bigger picture. So again, a lot of this shit is being destroyed and dismantled because it has to be. Our mothers, our sisters, our little, princesses need that to feel an emotional security again, to feel, because that emotional and that spiritual security, that's what our women are recovering. That's why you mothers are healing, because the princess that's come after you, they won't fear the world, because you no longer carry the fear of being secure emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically, because it all connects. And then when you do that, that carries on to the sons that would know what it is to honor that, honor your emotions, honor you spiritually, honor you physically. Then they will know to protect that, to nurture that, to affirm that. We will know what that is to rebalance that. And it's a process, because like I said, I don't got it all together. I'm still learning this shit. That shit, whew. So again, I'll come more with, I know y'all needed this, because I be getting them nudges, giving them the message. Whether they like it or not, it's not about that. It's about, again, accountability. Because all of us have played a role. Don't come over here, well, this. Them days are fucking over with, the pointing the finger. You don't even see kids do that unless they learn it from someone. Or they'll tell you, well, this, because my daughter, she'd get on me about, if I do something, whether play, and not anything like, Daddy, okay, baby. You know what that shows me? That a part of her, that whether I can believe that it hurts, or whether I believe that in her world, it may seem like, in my world, it may seem like, oh, baby, I'm just playful tapping, or, no. That relearning to be gentle again is also me learning to be gentle to my inner child from being connected, from being abused. See, it looks different for everyone. Once you start to realize that these healing, these parts of ourselves that we hated, or people talking about that was, the worst versions, are really the best versions, or teachers, or lessons for us to really go in and realize, like, whoa, what is this teaching me? What lesson am I learning here? And so in that, all of that will connect to the present moment. So I'm having to learn what it is to be gentle again, what it is to nurture myself again, what it is where I have blockages to that communicatively, all those things, and it looks different for everyone. So that's my little whatever it is. May it be nourishing to your mind, body, and spirit. Peace and blessings, much clarity, balance, harmony, peace to you all. Shalom.